You're absolutely sick of it. At one moment, she's acting absolutely sweet, and on the next moment, she's throwing emotional tantrums at you like a child. And you're standing by her side thinking, what the hell just happened? You're trying to be polite, you're trying to be soft, you're trying to be reasonable, but nothing seems to work. And you are the one who is stuck dealing with all of that on your own. And it's not because that you're a weak person, and it's not because that you're a bad person. It's just because you don't know what is the distinguishing factor between a man who gets walked all over and a man who commands respect. Because we have been told by the society that we need to communicate with women in a logical fashion. But deep within your heart, you know that there is something which is fundamentally wrong about this approach. You know that this strategy is so absurd that it is not going to work in the real world. And that's why you always find yourself at the whims of those problems that are created by the emotional turbulence that is created by the women. And until you don't do anything about it, your situation is going to remain the same and you're going to stay in that loop of misery and helplessness all the time. And that's going to be the topic of today's video. Today, we are going to understand that what are the underlying factors which compel the women to create these emotional problems and how a man can defend himself by staying indifferent to them, by creating a lot of inner emotional stability. So, grab a piece of paper and pen and start taking notes because today you're going to get some knowledge that you have never gotten before. So without any further delay, let's get started. Now, in order to understand that how these problematic emotions that women have affect a man's health, affect a man's psychological health, we need to understand that it is actually a kind of belief that we have taken from the society. Society wants us to communicate with women on a logical level. Whenever we say that we have any kind of emotional conflict with a woman, we always get this recommendation that we need to negotiate desire with her, that we need to listen to her logical arguments, and as a result of that, we can put forward our own logical arguments, and as a result of that, both parties can come to a logical conclusion, and as a result of that, we can get rid of our conflicts and have a happy life. But what we don't understand is that women are intensely emotional creatures, which means that you cannot expect a woman to ignore her emotions for the sake of logic. Women are going to make decisions based on their emotions, and then they're going to back those decisions up with logic so that they can find socially acceptable ways to execute those decisions in the real world. That's how a woman's mind functions. And until you don't understand this, your life is going to remain the same because you cannot resolve an emotional conflict through argumentation. So, even if you win an argument with a woman, you are bound to lose because that's a game that is owned by women. And whenever you're trying to play the game that is actually owned by the women, you're bound to lose because that's not the game that you're well aware of. And even if you win, you're going to lose because in the fight between the logic and the emotions, the winning decision is always going to tilt towards the emotions because there is nothing which is more powerful than the emotions in a human interaction. So, you need to get rid of this social belief that we have gotten that we can actually reason our way in order to gain influence over the mind of a woman or in order to convince her that she's wrong and you're right. You will never be able to do that. So, the core of this discussion is that you cannot win an argument from a woman. That is something that should be absolutely clear in your mind. Now, in order to understand that what can be the alternative, the first thing that we need to do is to try to understand the different stress handling mechanisms of men and women from an evolutionary perspective. Because both genders, man and women, both are evolutionarily designed to handle stress in different ways. Men are problem solvers. If you go to a man and you tell him your problem, he's going to see clarity in the problem, then he's going to see that what are the available resources and strategies that he can use in order to get rid of that problem, and then he's going to hand it over to you on a silver platter. If you go to a man and if you tell him that you have a headache, he's not going to say what happened at work or what actually became the reason of that headache in the first place. He's going to ask you to take a fucking pill, or he's going to ask you to take a fucking walk in the woods or to take a fucking nap. And even then, if it doesn't resolve, he will come up with some other practical solution and he's going to hand it over to you on a silver platter. Women are not like that. If a woman has a problem, she wants you to listen. She wants to feel emotionally validated. She wants to feel protected. because she wants to have this belief that her problem is justified. And once she has that belief, 95% of the times, she's not even looking for the solution. She was just looking for that validation. So there is a fundamental difference between men and women. When men get stressed, they seek solutions. When women have stress, they seek validation. And that's why whenever she's throwing any kind of emotional tantrums at you as a result of a stressful situation, she's trying to test that a man that she's putting all her trust in, does he have the ability to deal with all the psychological instability that is going to enter his life by the moment he enters into a relationship with her. If you are successful at dealing with those emotional tantrums, she's going to stay. And if you're not, she's going to perceive you as a weak person and eventually she's going to leave. Or if she's a narcissist, then welcome to the jungle, because now you're open to endless psychological manipulation and she's going to psychologically destroy your life without you even knowing it. You will not even know what hit you and you will be dead, metaphorically speaking. So now, after understanding these steps, what you need to understand is that before we dive deeper into the 5 steps that we are going to take in order to create our emotional fortitude and in order to become emotionally so invincible that nothing can be able to shake us, especially in the context of women, I will try to make this idea of the stress handling mechanism of men and women in an analogy, and that would be the analogy of rock and storm. Women's emotions are like storms, wild, out of control, and absolutely unpredictable. And in the face of that storm, a man has no choice but to become a rock. And a rock has no choice but to deal with all the blows that are coming off the storm and to stay firm. So, what you need to understand is that the crux of this discussion is that you have to hold your frame and you have to hold your ground, which means that you cannot afford to show any kind of emotions in the face of any stressful situation or in the face of any kind of emotional blows that you're getting from your women. So, after understanding that, now let's dive into the practicality of the session. Now we are going to discuss that what are those 5 steps that you can take in order to make your emotions bulletproof, waterproof, actually soundproof. In any way, you're going to make your emotional life absolutely unstoppable if you just follow these skills, these 5 skills. They're not steps, they're 5 skills. If you follow them step by step, your life is going to be so much better and so much peaceful that it is going to absolutely blow your mind. The kind of power and leverage that you're going to get in terms of human interactions and human relationships is going to be absolutely off the chart. So, the first step that you're going to take is to understand that you have to have the skill of predicting the arrival of the storm before it arrives. Now, what do I mean by that? It means that women is going to give you signals before she's actually going to stab you with that emotional knife. Her tone is going to get defiant. She's going to get annoying. She will be disrespecting you in subtle ways and she will be passively aggressive. Whenever you get any signs of irritation in a woman, you must know that the storm is coming. Now, once you know that the storm is coming, the next step that you're going to take is that you will have to get ready for it. Because Sun Tzu says that don't depend on the enemy not coming. Depend on being ready for him. There is a difference between both of these things. So, the moment that blows comes and it stabs you in the heart, your heart will agitate and it will want to react. It wants to get that dirty rush of anger, frustration, and now it wants to deal with the situation in a logical fashion. You're not allowed to do that because that's the only war in which your biggest weapon is going to be inaction. Inaction is going to be your biggest weapon whenever you're dealing with such a situation. So that period of inaction is going to lie between 10 seconds to 30 seconds. When your heart wants you to react, you will have to take a pause of at least 30 seconds. That's the discipline that you need to develop in yourself if you really want to gain emotional mastery. Once you have taken that 30 seconds pause, the next step that you're going to take is that you will have to take control of 2 things. Number 1, your tone of voice, and number 2, your physiology. Now, the first thing that you need to do is that you will see that your heart will racing like a world-class racing car. And that's the sign of stress, because that's a sign of fight, flight, or hide, the survival instinct. So you will have to regulate your heart beating rate by actually controlling your breath. So you start breathing heavily and you regulate your heart to its normal beating rate. Once that is done, 50% of your job is done. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is that before you utter any words, you will have to take care of your tonality, which means that you will have to take out all the defensiveness from your voice. We call this voice the late night FM DJ voice. Now, just imagine if I say in this voice to you, fuck you, it's not going to hurt as bad as if I say it with genuine conviction, fuck you. So there is a difference, which means that the tonality is going to actually set the temperature of the interaction that you're having. And if you really want to control the temperature of an interaction, you have to control your tonality and you have to control your physiology. If you do both of these things, 90% of the interaction is now in your hands. Now, the rest of the 10% can be also controlled by following the next 3 steps. Now, what's going to happen is that in the 4th step, what you need to understand is that it doesn't matter how logical the woman is. It doesn't matter how bad have you been in the past, or if it's all your mistake. If she's being disrespectful, if she's being annoying, if she's giving you any kind of emotional tantrums, you are going to cut your attention ruthlessly. You have to cut your attention ruthlessly because you're not going to reward any kind of behavior. And you're going to convey it when you have taken care of your physiology and you have taken care of your tonality without any defensive tone. You're going to tell her that you're not going to tolerate this. And once you have told her that, even after that, if she keeps doing that, you're going to take the next step, and that is that you're going to cut your attention ruthlessly. But if she complies, that means that now she's in your frame, and that's how you're going to give her all of your attention and all of your affection. So that's it. These are the 5 steps that you need to take. They're practical skill sets that you can develop, and as a result of that, you're going to gain a fundamental kind of control over any kind of interaction that you're going to have, especially with women. So try this for the next 7 days. Try these 5 steps and make them a part of your life. The moment you have having any kind of emotional agitation towards anyone, whether it's a woman in your life, or it's your boss, or it's anyone, whenever you're having any kind of emotional agitation as a result of someone trying to create emotional turbulence for you, just try this. And if it works for you, don't forget to write me a thank you note. And at the end of this, I would like to conclude it with this. Women don't like weak men. They like those men that they cannot shake. Become that man, and your life is going to change forever. Till the next time, peace.